Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. And today we are coming at you with another mock draft reaction. This one's going to be to Matt Miller's mock draft. This is his new website. It's subscription based, but this first mock draft is free. It's 7 rounds if you want to go check it out. We're only doing the first round. And before we get started, just want to say we are doing the 32 GM subscriber mock draft. So if you want to subscribe, it's once we hit 1,000 subs, you're eligible to be one of the 32 GMs. We'll do up to like 4 rounds. You guys can make trades with each other. It should be chaotic and fun. But regardless, let's get into this video. Like I said, this is just the first round of Matt's 7 round mock draft is what we're going to be going over. Heard there's some few surprises in here. This is a blind reaction. So he says no trades, no compensatory picks, and teams' needs are pre-free agency, obviously, because free agency happens. And he says this mock is based on what I'm hearing, not what I would do. So that's important because as much as we all like to think, YouTubers like me like to think that we know what we're talking about when it comes to the mock draft. None of us really have inside sources. Guys like Matt, Daniel Jeremiah, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, those guys, Bucky Brooks, all have inside sources, all know way more than we do. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction he goes in. I did Todd McShay's yesterday. That one was pretty interesting. Some surprise picks. But let's get into this. And with the number 1 overall pick, he goes Trevor Lawrence to the Jags. Luckily, no inside sources telling him anything other than that. That should be the number 1 overall pick. That's as close to a lock as we're going to get in this draft. After number 1, it could really go in any direction depending on what the Jets do this offseason. If they acquire Deshaun Watson, it's really going to make things interesting. But regardless, I think that this is pretty, solidified as the number 1 overall pick. And at number 2, he goes Zach Wilson to the New York Jets. So this is an interesting one. You can make the argument Fields is better than Wilson. I've talked about this in a lot of videos just because of the fact that Justin Fields goes to Ohio State and that offense is so simplified and he's really a one-read quarterback, doesn't really know how to progress through reads right now. That makes him a red flag, and that does raise some question marks about his ability in the NFL. I think with a good coaching staff, he could be a really good player. But for right now, I think Zach Wilson is the clear-cut number 2 quarterback prospect, and to me, the clear-cut number 2 prospect in the entire class. I'm a huge fan of Zach Wilson's, and the Jets fill the need by getting, hopefully, who they think can be, their franchise quarterback, something that Sam Darnold has failed to do. But, again, that might just be a product of the Adam Gase system, and he hasn't really had the best coaching staff in the NFL. So I'm excited to see what Sam Darnold does in the future if he goes to another team, how successful he could be. But for right now, I think Zach Wilson is the pick. He says there's 2 options. You trade Sam Darnold, draft a quarterback, or keep Sam Darnold, trade the number 2 overall pick. I think that's pretty fair. It's going to be interesting to see, like I said, if there's just some Deshaun Watson news, how much that affects the rest of this draft. But for right now, I think it's pretty good that he has Zach Wilson at number 2. I agree with that full-heartedly. At 3, this one's interesting. He goes Jamar Chase to the Miami Dolphins. Again, there's no trades in this. So Miami at 3, I think if they don't trade down, they could go offensive tackle and Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, or they would go wide receiver. And, I do believe that Jamar Chase is the number 1 prospect at wide receiver in this class. He's dominant. He's physical. He's everything you want in an NFL wide receiver. Do I think the Dolphins pass up on the chance to pair Devontae Smith with Tua Tagovailoa? No, I really don't. I think this is a Devontae Smith spot if they do go wide receiver. Again, it's just the pairing. They were all together at the Senior Bowl. Well, Brian Flores and Devontae Smith were. So I really think that it's going to be pretty unlikely that the Dolphins go any other wide receiver above Devontae Smith at this point. But Jamar Chase, like I said, is the number 1 prospect, so I could see them going in that direction. But for right now, I would say Devontae Smith is pretty likely to go at number 3 if the Dolphins don't trade down and they do decide to go wide receiver. At 4, this is an interesting one. Kyle Pitts to the Atlanta Falcons. And like I said, and like what he wrote in the beginning of this is that this is what he's hearing. So if he's hearing stuff about Kyle Pitts to the Falcons at 4, that's really interesting. I think Sewell's is a good spot for him, or for the Falcons right here. You could go Justin Fields as well. But Kyle Pitts at 4 is really interesting. I thought Hayden Hurst played pretty well for the Falcons last year. They've always had, good offense for tight ends. You saw it with Austin Hooper a few years ago, and now Hayden Hurst again played very well for them this year. Kyle Pitts is obviously a game changer, a playmaker. I think they have other needs. Do they address those other needs, whether it's edge, linebacker, corner, you could argue, tackle? That's interesting, but I don't want to read his reasoning here. He says they invested 3 first-rounders on the offensive line in Jake Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, and Caleb McGarry, as well as adding another third round with a future star, Matt Hennessy, at center. So that's probably why he doesn't go Sewell. And then he also says that Matt Ryan is 35 and playing at a very high level. So that's why he doesn't go quarterback. It makes sense for his reasoning. Again, this is a big shocker, and it very well could happen because they know way more than we do. But it's definitely a shocker to have Kyle Pitts at 4. At 5, this one makes sense. I've mocked this in basically all my mocks. Not Penei Sewell, but Rashawn Slater. Usually I have Sewell off the board at this point. But since he needs to get a tackle, it doesn't matter if Jamar Chase is on the board. It really doesn't matter if anyone else is on the board. Trevor Lawrence could be on the board. Obviously got Joe Burrow last year, but they're not passing on any. I really do firmly believe that Cincinnati will take a tackle. It feels like it's a necessity at this point. You almost got your franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow, had his career ended last year with a very gruesome injury. You got to protect him. You got to go Slater or Sewell. It's the only option. If both those guys are off the board by 5, then by all means take Jamar Chase if he's still available. But you got to get one of these two guys if they're available, and you got to protect Joe Burrow. So Sewell, high ceiling of anyone in this class. I'd say Slater has the higher floor, but Sewell, very, very good player, and I like the fit of him in Cincinnati at 5. At 6, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going Devontae Smith. This makes sense. You could say with Jamar Chase off the board, they might look to target, linebacker or corner. But Devontae Smith probably had one of the most dominant receiving seasons of all time. Him and Jamar Chase back-to-back had two of the most, or two of the greatest receiving seasons of all time in college football. Devontae Smith balled out this year. Really good fit in Philly. I think he, could be a good fit anywhere. He can play in the slot. He can play in the outside. Very good route runner and has hands, and he really doesn't drop the football at all. So Philly gets finally a good wide receiver in his mock. They don't take a guy like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. They don't take a guy like Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. So I like this pick a lot for Philly at 6. At 7, our third of the top 3 receivers is off the board, so might not see a receiver for a bit here. Jalen Waddle, Alabama, to Detroit. Makes sense. Get the most dynamic playmaker in the class to the Detroit Lions. They need a wide receiver. Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, all on their way out. Golladay could be on his way out if he doesn't get the franchise tag. They have to pay Jared Goff's contract now. That's a big contract. So the receiving situation in Detroit is not good. Why not get the most dynamic playmaker? Just makes the most sense for Detroit. So I like this pick by Matt as well. At 8, here goes Justin Fields. I think that Carolina is the most ideal landing spot for Justin Fields. I talked about my concerns with him due to the fact that he's from a one-read offense, doesn't really know how to go through progressions right now. I think a guy like Joe Brady completely transform Joe Burrow's career. Now he can come in and completely transform Justin Fields' career. Not to say that Justin Fields won't have a good NFL career off the bat, but I think Joe Brady could really help Justin Fields develop into a solid starting quarterback in this league. I think that's all he needs. He needs good coaching staff, and he gets one of the best ones here at Carolina. It's a really good spot for him. I think San Fran would be a good spot for Fields as well. Those are the top 2 teams I think could really make him into a strong starting quarterback in the league. So I love the landing spot of Justin Fields. It fills the need. I'm a big Teddy Bridgewater fan. Is he a future franchise quarterback? Probably not at this point in his career. So get your guy in Justin Fields at 8. He falls to you. Why not take him? Love the pick. At 9, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. He goes Caleb Farley. Everyone's mocking this. I've said in the past that Surtain's a better prospect. I still stand true to that. He didn't opt out. Nothing against Caleb Farley for opting out, obviously. Everyone has their reasons this year. But Surtain basically came back to college, played this year, and said, what you saw from me in my sophomore season is just the start. I'm going to be so much more dominant. I'm going to prove that I'm the most dominant corner in the game. And that's exactly what he did in college football this year. Patrick Surtain balled out at Alabama, was basically an island. No one threw his way. That's why I have Surtain higher. Caleb Farley's a really fun prospect, someone with elite athleticism, great scheme versatility, and I think he fits the Broncos scheme better. So that's probably why Matt has him there. Again, he might have Farley higher than Surtain to begin with at corner. So it's really pick your poison here. Both of them are really good players. Caleb Farley to the Denver Broncos, I think, is a great fit, and it does come down to scheme sometimes. So Caleb Farley to Denver, I think, is something that I agree with that as well. At 10, he goes Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern, to the Dallas Cowboys. I've mentioned this one as well. Rashawn Slater is incredible. He has an incredible floor. He's going to come in and be a starting tackle in the league right away, be one of the better tackles in the league. He's a very good player. Do I think with Surtain on the board, the Cowboys pass on him? No, I don't, but Rashawn is a good player, and the Cowboys do need to get younger at the tackle position, so I don't mind the pick. This one is where I would go Surtain, and one that I do disagree with, but Slater is a top 10 player in this class, so it's great value, and he might even be a better prospect in a lot of teams' eyes than Patrick Surtain is. So you could just be going BPA here and getting the best player, and that's Rashawn Slater, and that's what Matt does. So I don't wholeheartedly disagree with it, but I would go Surtain here at 10 to the Cowboys, especially with how atrocious their defense was last year. at 11, he goes Micah Parsons. So I thought this could have been a Surtain spot. Obviously, Bradbury balled out. And the secondary as a whole for the Giants really played well as a unit. So it's not the biggest need. Micah Parsons would really fit a need. Obviously, Dave Gettleman in Carolina drafted a plethora of linebackers over there. I think that Micah Parsons makes sense to the Giants. He's a really, really good prospect, hard hitter. Obviously opted out this year. That might hurt his stock a little, along with the character issues that we've heard about. I don't know if any of those issues or any of those claims actually hold water, but it could end up being a concern for some of these teams. So Micah Parsons to the Giants. I think he's the best defensive player in the class. Certainly a great fit for New York, and they get an absolute baller at 11. At 12, not even Surtain here. I guess with Trey Lance still on the board, no way the 49ers pass on them. I know Matt's a 49ers fan, so I think he took some time and thought about this pick, and Trey Lance to the 49ers is something that really excites me if it happens. That fit is very, very, very exciting. I think Kyle Shanahan can work wonders with a guy like Trey Lance. He's already put together, I think, in my opinion, one of the best schemed offenses in the NFL. It really, really works out well with a game manager like Jimmy Garoppolo, but he can elevate his offense to a whole new level with a playmaker like Trey Lance. Trey Lance can get outside the pocket. He's a physical runner at the quarterback position. He has great arm strength. The accuracy, I would say, is his only question mark, as well as he's playing in FBS football at North Dakota State. Could also be his question mark, but right now I think this is a great fit. I had the 49ers trading up with the Denver Broncos in my last mock to take Trey Lance, so this is something that really excites me, and I like the fit in San Fran with Trey Lance. We'll see who he takes at 13. This is the Los Angeles Chargers pick. Could this be the Surtain spot? And it is. So Surtain falls to the Chargers, and he says no offensive tackle at 13 overall. You've seen that everywhere. You've seen it in my mock drafts if you're a fan of this channel. Basically, Christian Darrisaw has gone to the Chargers in my past 3 mocks. I mock that consistently. I feel like a lot of people mock a tackle to the Chargers, whether they have Slater falling that far, like Todd McShay did, or Darrisaw like I have. However, with Surtain falling, I think this is a great pickup for the Chargers. Obviously traded away Desmond King last year, and now they get a great boundary cornerback in Patrick Surtain, someone that can come in, play right away, and be one of the starting cornerbacks on this team, and really fill not the biggest need for the Chargers, but definitely fill a need. And I say it about Joe Burrow. I think you got to protect Justin Herbert, but it's not as extreme as Joe Burrow. So not reaching on a guy, it's not even a reach, but not taking a guy like Darrisaw here when Surtain is available is something I don't disagree with. So I like this pick. Again, Surtain's a top 10 player in the class in my opinion, so great value for me, and they get a stud at corner, the Chargers do. At 14, here goes Christian Darrisaw. So I think he says the Minnesota Vikings hold steady and find a top-tier left tackle prospect on the board. Perfect pick for their scheme given his athleticism and upside. I think Darrisaw also I think the Vikings also need interior offensive line more than they need left tackle. He is left tackle as their number 1 need. I think interior offensive line is a bigger need for them. So I've been mocking Elijah Vera Tucker there because he has positional versatility and because he can play tackle and interior offensive line. So he can basically plug any hole that the Vikings really need at this point. Darrisaw might end up being the better offensive line prospect as a whole. Is a really solid left tackle. So it makes sense for the Vikings to go him here as well. Do I think that Elijah Vera Tucker is the better prospect? Personally, yeah, just because of that versatility that he brings to the table, and I think he fits for the Vikings better, but I don't mind the Darrisaw pick here at all. At 15, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. This is an interesting one. So with Mac Jones still on the board, the Patriots pass that up, and they take a linebacker. Top 3 wide receivers are off the board. Kyle Pitts is off the board. I think quarterback or linebacker is now the best fit for the New England Patriots. I think Bill Belichick, someone that really likes draft capital, we could see trade back if this was the current scenario. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's my 15th best player in the class, so I think this is perfect value for him. And again, he fills a need for the Patriots. It's going to be interesting to see the production that Dante Hightower has when he comes back, but either way, they need another linebacker on the inside. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, great athlete, can play in coverage, and also is not that bad of a hard hitter himself. So I think it's a good fit for New England. And do I think Mac Jones is the better prospect? And no, but do I think he fills the bigger and more important need in football at quarterback? Yes. So that's what I would have the Patriots doing here personally, but I don't think linebacker is a bad pick at all. We'll see what he does at 16 with the Arizona Cardinals. And this is J.C. Horn. I mocked this too. Cardinals' number one need right now is corner, and it's really not close. I think edge is a second, but I think corner is the most important with Pat Pete leaving. You only got Byron Murphy left. So J.C. Horn fits Arizona's scheme pretty decently. I think that, where he ends up going is going to be it does have to be a good scheme for him, and that's going to depend heavily on his success. But I don't think it's bad at all to have J.C. Horn going to the Cardinals. I like that pick, and I mocked that personally. So that's a good one overall. At 17, Davion Nixon, pretty high to the Las Vegas Raiders. He has interior defensive line as their number one need. I think edge is a bigger need. Regardless, they got no pressure last year. I think they had like 21 total sacks in 2020. So Davion Nixon, more of a nose guard, run stopper, block shedder than anything else. I don't think he's that great at getting to the passer, but he is a great athlete, like Matt says here. Again, I don't think he's the best pass rusher. He says he's let's see what he says. Turn on the tape of Nixon, and the first thing you see is his first step quickness. He's explosive, natural, easy mover, but he's also good against the run, stacking blockers, using his hands, dominating with activeness. Sorry, I'm bad at reading. Nixon is a complete defensive tackle, but as a redshirt junior, he still has a big upside. So I think that edge is the bigger need, but he does go Davion Nixon. Again, I don't see Davion as necessarily the best pass rushing defensive tackle in this class, and I think that's the Raiders' main focus is getting after the quarterback right now. But if you want to mauler up the middle, Davion Nixon's your guy. Like you said, he's an athletic player that can stop the run very well. So do I agree with this? No, especially with all the edges being available. I think Raiders take their pick at one of those, but they go Nixon. At 18, here goes Gregory Rousseau, the edge rusher out of Miami. They got Jamar Chase to start the draft. Now they get a great edge rusher. This is interesting. I'm starting to see a trend here because I don't think Miami's number one need at this point is edge. I think they could go linebacker. Obviously, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is off the board. If they wanted to reach on a guy like Nick Bolton maybe, or even a Zaven Collins to get that edge linebacker versatility, I think that's more realistic than Gregory Rousseau here. But also Todd McShay had Jalen Phillips going here. So it's interesting. I don't really know what to make of this, but I'm starting to see a trend of edges going to Miami here at 18. In all my mocks, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah has been available at 18, so that's what I've been doing. But it's going to be interesting. For right now, I'm going to disagree with it. I do think they don't go Rousseau. I think they do have bigger needs. You could get a running back here, maybe even trade back this pick. But it's not the worst pick in the world. Edge is going to be a need in the future with the free agent situation. Guys like Van Noy are going to be on their way out. Ugba is on a shorter deal, so they might want to start building for the future and getting Rousseau here. But like I said, I think there's bigger needs. So not one that I'm the biggest fan of, but something that I'm seeing a lot and I don't mind. At 19, Kadarius Toney to the Washington football team. This is one that I've been mocking, and it's good to get some guys backing it up. We had Tom McShay going this and Matt Miller now going this. So I love this fit. I think Kadarius Toney to the Washington football team is a really, really good fit. And overall, I think that it just makes sense. They need a playmaker at wide receiver. Darren McLaurin's proven to be someone that can really certainly be a wide receiver one in the NFL. And then Kadarius Toney can be your fun utility knife that you could basically line up anywhere on the offense. He's proved to be a really good route runner at the Senior Bowl. He has great hands overall. Obviously, had some drop issues at the Senior Bowl, but had 0 drops at Florida last season. So overall, terrific prospect, and I love the fit for Washington at 19. At 20 is the Chicago Bears going Elijah Vera Tucker. So we've had Mac Jones fall past the football team, past the Patriots, past the Bears. I would expect him to go next to the Colts. But here goes Elijah Vera Tucker. He has him listed as an offensive tackle. I think that he's more going to be better fit at guard in the NFL. I think that's where he'll end up playing. But it's not the end of the world if he has to play tackle in the NFL, and the Bears' offensive line was abysmal last year, so it's a good fit. I like the value. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's a great player. Do they go for more of a clean tackle? Maybe a guy like Leatherwood, maybe a guy like Cosme, perhaps, but Elijah Vera Tucker at 20, or Tevin Jenkins even. Elijah Vera Tucker at 20 isn't a bad pick at all, and something that I could certainly see happening. I'm very excited to see if he goes Mac Jones at 21, and if he doesn't, it's going to be interesting to see how far he has Mac Jones falling. At 21, here he goes, Mac Jones. Finally, QB5 comes off the board. This is going to be interesting. I think Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold, like he says, could be candidates to be the Colts quarterback. I think they're really, really looking at the free agency market more than the draft right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Patriots, goes to the football team, goes to the Bears even before he goes to the Colts. I think those are more likely candidates for Mac Jones to go to. But with him falling this far in his draft, this is a pick that makes the most sense. Obviously, this is pre-free agency. Can't really say that the Colts are going to get Wentz or Darnold when they haven't gotten him yet. So it makes sense for him to go quarterback here. It is a need with Phillip Rivers retiring. They really have no one else. Jacoby Brissett, say what you will, but I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the league either. So Mac Jones, great quarterback, balled out of the Senior Bowl, someone that I'm really excited to see where he lands. And another guy like Justin Fields with the right coaching staff can develop into a very solid starting quarterback in this league. At 22, Jalen Phillips off the board. So this is another interesting thing. Todd McShay had the exact same order, Rousseau and then Jalen Phillips at the edge position. So we see that's starting to be a trend now. You got Rousseau and Jalen being the top two edges off the board. Guys like Kwity Paye starting to fall further back. Guys like Azeez Ojulari. Guys like Joseph Osai starting to fall further back. So the top two edges in Rousseau and Jalen Phillips in this draft are the exact same order that Todd McShay had them in. Something to just look out for at this point in the draft process. Jalen Phillips to the Tennessee Titans. Again, I've said this many times. They need a pocket pusher. They got Harold Landry. They got Jeffrey Simmons. If they can get one more guy on the edge, they could be a really, really good defensive line. They wanted that to be Clowney. Obviously, Clowney's a great run stopper. He's not the best pass rusher. Jalen Phillips, I think, definitely fills a need. He's an aggressive. He's got a high motor, a great athlete, and I think it makes sense. I think Jalen Phillips, people are starting to get really high on him. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up going in this first round, if he can even climb the boards to be maybe even being edge one at this point. At 23, here goes Azeez Ojulari. He's personally my edge one. And then I have Rousseau and then Phillips, or actually I think it's Ojulari, Osai, Rousseau, then Phillips, and then Kwity Paye. But I think the edge class is kind of wishy-washy right now. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys end up going. He takes Zach Wilson number one overall, probably the most important position on offense, and now you get the most important position on defense nowadays. You could argue linebacker, but I think getting after the quarterback is the most important. Azeez Ojulari. I had Rousseau to the Jets in my most recent mock. I think that it's kind of just going to come down to best player available. Obviously, they could go reach on a wide receiver here or reach on a running back here, but they also pick at 34, right? Yeah, 34. So they pick very early in the second round. They can get one of the top receivers remaining or one of the top running backs remaining, same range as 23 at that point. So I think you go BPA here, and that's what he does. Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. Very fun prospect, very fun player, and I think he's the most consistent at getting to the quarterback in the class, and that's why he's my number one edge. So I love the value here at 23 for the Jets. At 24, Jalen Mayfield. This is obviously a great tackle spot. You could argue running back, but which is I used to mock Jalen Mayfield a lot here. I've been doing Najee more often at 24, but Mayfield, great prospect, can come in and start right away, fill that role that Villanueva's gonna, or fill that gap that Villanueva's gonna leave. So Jalen Mayfield to the Steelers makes sense, and I like that fit a lot as well. At 25. Jacksonville Jaguars take Tevin Jenkins. So this gives you a lot of options if you're the Jags. If you hold on to Cam Robinson, you can either slide him or Jawan Taylor into guard and fill a guard role and then start Tevin Jenkins at tackle, or you could just let Cam Robinson go, not worry about having to pay him, and get his replacement at Tevin Jenkins. So I like this fit. It's a good fit. Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, great player, and you got to protect Trevor Lawrence, and he invests in that earlier in the draft than I have been doing, but I don't mind a tackle spot here for the Jaguars at 25. At 26, Trayvon Mulrig. So this is another one. Todd McShay had him in the first round, and now we have Matt Miller having him in the first round. So this is interesting. I kind of like it. Trayvon Mulrig starting to climb up boards. He's been a really good player for TCU. I really haven't seen safety all that much in the first round until recently. People seem to be pretty high on Trayvon Mulrig. They like the motor that he brings. He plays very aggressive. He's not necessarily a ball hawk, but he's a good player. And for him to be going in the first round more and more is something that intrigues me. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this because they have Ronnie Harrison. They got Grant Delpit as well. So do they necessarily need safety over a guy or over an edge or linebacker or corner? No. So I don't really like the team fit, especially when Cleveland could go those positions that I just mentioned over Trayvon Mowbray. But I don't mind the prospect going in the first round. It's something that seems to be trending a lot recently. At 27, here goes Kwity Paye. He goes a big, reliable target for Lamar Jackson in the passing game, is the ideal pick and biggest need on the roster, but none are of value on the board. So it's interesting what he has here, Kwity Paye over a wide receiver. But I looked ahead to the second round, and Rashad Bateman, he doesn't have it until like 50. We're not going to go over the second round, but he has Rashad Bateman falling quite a while. Terrace Marshall pretty far down. So he obviously is rating these wide receivers after the top three pretty low. So edge, another important need for them. Judon probably not going to return this year, so getting his replacement in Kwity Paye makes sense for the Baltimore Ravens. At 28, we got Jabril Cox. This is an interesting one. Did not see this. This is my first time seeing this. The North Dakota State transfer to LSU gets picked in the first round. I think Nick Bolton's the better prospect. It's going to be interesting. I want to kind of see what he says. He has quarterbacks off the board. You could go wide receiver. But Jabril Cox was hard to miss at LSU thanks to his 6'4", 245-pound frame and ability to lock down coverage linebacker when he matched up against tight ends and backs. He shined once again during the Senior Bowl week and secured his position as first-round talent. So that's really interesting. I haven't seen Jabril Cox in the first round ever. Matt launches him up in the first round. Might be a trend we start to see. Jabril Cox is someone that has been mocked like third, fourth round a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jabril Cox ends up falling in this draft and where he fits best. But him over Zaven Collins and Nick Bolton is something I haven't seen before, and him over even guys like Dylan Moses, Chaz Surratt, and even Baron Browning is something I haven't really been seeing. So Jabril Cox in the first round, that's an interesting one, something to look out for in the future if that starts to be a trend. At 29, here goes Nick Bolton. He said that Packers fans were mad at him on Twitter. I see why now. Nick Bolton at Missouri. Good player. I like him a lot. I say he reminds me a lot of Kenneth Murray. He's 6'0", 241 pounds, so just an absolute beast. He has great speed and can be a three-down threat. So I like Nick Bolton a lot. Great player. And I like do I like the fit of Green Bay? I think there's bigger needs. I think you go corner. I think corner's got to be the pick. I love Aaron Robinson at this spot. Again, I think he's just the opposite of Kevin King, who proved to be a baby back bitch in the playoffs. And now you bring in a physical guy like Aaron Robinson, basically the complete opposite. Complement Jair pretty well, I think, would be the pick up here. But he goes linebacker. So it's an interesting pick. It's an interesting take. I think there's bigger needs, but Nick Bolton's a great player, so I don't mind it. At 30, here goes the first running back. This is another interesting one. We saw Todd McShay mocked this as well. He actually had ETN at 23, so he had two first-round running backs. But Najee Harris, first running back off the board for Matt Miller. Buffalo takes him. This is the second time I've seen Buffalo going running back. I think they also have bigger needs. I think corner is their biggest need. I think Zaven Collins still being on the board, you got to go him at this point because he also fits that edge and linebacker need that you have. So Najee Harris to the Bills, I think, is a fun one. Get just Josh Allen and that Bills offense some more weapons and more threats. Could be a lot of fun, but again, I think they do have bigger needs on the Bills. At 31, Landon Dickerson. This is another one that seems to be happening a lot more frequently. The offensive lineman out of Alabama. Obviously, he says there should be one mission in Kansas City, protect Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, the Chiefs' offensive line sucked this year and sucked in the Super Bowl, most importantly. So getting an offensive lineman, I don't mind. Landon Dickerson is a name that I'm seeing rising up draft boards pretty quickly. So it's another one that interests me a lot. I'm excited to see where the offseason risers and fallers and how fast some guys start to rise and how fast some guys start to fall. And to wrap up the first round, he has Joe Tyron, something else we've been seeing a lot. Joe Tyron sneaking up in the first round in a lot of mock drafts. He's been trending upwards, and he has the Bucs going. Joe Tyron makes the most sense. Over Osai, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Osai was someone that rose really fast during the season and has now been slowly falling out of the first round. So something that interests me a lot. But Shaq Barrett probably is going to be the casualty of the Bucs defense this year. I think they're going to look to bring back guys like Devontae David, try to bring back Chris Godwin, and at the end of the day, they don't have unlimited money, so they're probably going to end up having to replay Shaq Barrett and go Joe Tyron. So it fills a need. Is he the best edge? I don't know. Personally, I have Joseph Osai higher than him. I'm going to go over Joe Tyron's film in depth probably later today. Just try to get a better understanding of why people are excited about him. But it's a great need fill for the Buccaneers here at 32. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Remember to subscribe if you want to be a part of the 32 GM subscriber mock draft, and take it easy, guys. Peace.